Raiskin's earliest memories shimmered with candlelight and velvet. His family's manor perched above the bustling heart of Waterdeep. The scent of old books and polished wood mingled with the ever-present salt air drifting in from the harbor below. Servants moved quietly through the halls, tending to his every need, while his parents, Lord and Lady Dorander, hosted scholars and nobles who debated politics and the latest arcane discoveries over mulled wine by the drawing-room fire. From a young age, Raiskin was different from the other noble children of Waterdeep. While his peers sparred in the courtyard or plotted mischievous pranks, Raiskin lingered in the library, poring over spellbooks too advanced for his age. He marveled at the illustrations, sigils dancing on the page, diagrams of the weave's mysterious flows, feeling a strange kinship with the secrets they hinted at. On a bright spring morning, a crisply folded letter arrived, bearing the seal of Blackstaff Academing, a stylized black staff entwined with silver lightning. The household gathered as Lady Dorander read the words aloud. "We are pleased to accept Raiskin Dorander for study at Blackstaff Academy, commencing at the next term." Joy and pride flickered across his parents' faces, and even the stern butler allowed himself a smile. As dusk fell, Raiskin stood at his window, watching lanterns bloom along the city's winding streets. Excitement warred with apprehension in his chest. The academy awaited, a place of wonders, challenges, and, perhaps, friendships, or would he remain forever the odd one out, adrift even among wizards? Raiskin found his father in the study, a sanctuary of dark wood maps and the scent of old ink. Lord Dorander sat in a high-backed chair, poring over trade ledgers by the flickering light of a single lantern. He glanced up as Raiskin entered, his stern features softening just slightly. "Come in, son," he said, setting his pen aside. "Sit. You must have questions." Raiskin perched on the edge of a leather chair, hands twisting in his lap. "Father, what is it truly like at Blackstaff Academy? I know it's not all books and lectures. What should I expect?" Lord Dorander studied him for a moment, then spoke gravely. "The Academy is a crucible, not just of knowledge, but of character. You will meet the children of Waterdeep's greatest houses, and some with no house at all, chosen only for their gifts. Rivalries run deep. Magic is wondrous, but it can be perilous. Remember, trust your wits, and never let pride rule your actions." He leaned forward, voice low. "There will be instructors who challenge you, peers who test you, and moments when you feel alone. But you are a Dorander. Our name is built on perseverance. Seek wisdom, not just power, and if you ever find yourself in trouble, do not hesitate to ask for help, whether from a teacher or from us." The words settled into Raiskin like a protective charm. He left the study feeling at once smaller and braver, poised at the threshold of an unknown and extraordinary world. Raiskin retreated to his small writing desk, candlelight flickering over the blank pages of his journal. For a long moment he simply stared, listening to the muffled sounds of his family's laughter drifting through the manor. Then, with careful, determined strokes, he began to writing his hopes, his fears, the advice his father had given him, and a promise to himself to remember who he was, no matter what awaited at the academy. His quill scratched out questions he dared not voice aloud. Would he find friends or always be the odd one out? Could he truly master magic, Or would he disappoint his family's proud legacy? The act of writing steadied him, each word an anchor against the swirling uncertainty of what lay ahead. By the time he finished, the candle had burned low, and Raiskin felt a strange sense of calm. He placed the journal in a secret compartment in his desk, a tradition begun when he was just a child, hiding his earliest casting attempts and childish drawings of dragons. He whispered a soft cantrip to lock the drawer, a small act of magic that made him feel not just like a student, but a wizard too. The night was quiet as he prepared for bed, the city's distant bustle muted by velvet drapes. Tomorrow, he would begin to pack for the journey to Blackstaff Academy, the first step into a world of wonders and dangers he could scarcely imagine. The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains, illuminating Raiskin's tidy room. He opened the lacquered trunk at the foot of his bed and began the bittersweet task of packing for Blackstaff Academy. Selecting each item felt weighty. A favorite cloak, a set of fine quills, a small pouch of spell components, and, after a moment's hesitation, a worn copy of Mysteries of the Weave that had shaped many of his childhood dreams. His mother had stitched his initials into the inside cover years ago. He paused by his bookshelf, running his fingers over the spines. He wished he could bring them all, but there was only so much space. After much deliberation, he chose 3: a treatise on magical ethics, a slim volume on illusion cantrips, and an illustrated bestiary. Into a hidden pocket went his journal, now enchanted and private, and a small silver locket containing a miniature portrait of his family. His mother's idea, he suspected. Packing completed, Raiskin surveyed his belongings and felt a pang of homesickness with anticipation. The trunk, once a symbol of childish adventures, now brimmed with the promise of a future unknown. He fastened the brass clasps, then sat on the bed, realizing how close his old life was to ending and a new one to beginning. A gentle knock came at the door. Raiskin. His mother's voice was soft. "Breakfast is ready, and someone is here to see you before you leave." Raiskin lingered in the center of his room, sunlight painting golden patterns on the familiar rug. He traced the carved wardrobe with his fingers, remembering how he used to imagine it leading to another realm. The windowsill, worn smooth by years of sitting with a book and a view of Waterdeep's rooftops, seemed to beckon with silent memories. For a fleeting moment, he pressed his palm to the cool glass, whispering a quiet farewell to the space that had sheltered his childhood dreams and secrets. He took a slow breath, letting gratitude and nostalgia settle in his chest. The shelves, the desk, the bed, all witnesses to the countless hours spent reading, practicing cantrips, and scribbling ambitions in his journal. Even the faint scuffs on the floor felt precious now. He promised himself that, no matter what magic or peril awaited, he would carry something of this room with him, its safety, its hope. A second, firmer knock roused him from his reverie. Raiskin. His mother's voice was closer now, gentle but insistent. "You'll want to come down. Your visitor won't wait forever!" With one last look, Raiskin squared his shoulders, closed the trunk, and left his childhood sanctuary behind. The hallway stretched before him, filled with the scent of baking bread and possibility. It was time to begin the next chapter. Raiskin's footsteps echoed softly on the polished stairs as he descended, heart quickening with curiosity. The warm scent of fresh bread and spiced honey wafted from the dining hall, where his mother stood waiting with a gentle smile. Beyond her, near the hearth, stood a tall figure clad in the deep blue robes of Blackstaff Academy, a woman with silver, streaked hair pulled into a severe bun, her eyes keen and appraising. "Master Raiskin Durandar," she greeted, her voice crisp but not unkind. "I am Magistra Elisir, the Academy's liaison for new students. I've come to escort you to Blackstaff and answer any final questions you or your family might have." She offered a scroll, sealed in black wax, as proof of her office. Lord Durandar entered from the adjoining study, his expression proud but measured. Lady Durandar offered Raiskin a reassuring squeeze of the hand, and the family gathered as breakfast was served. Magistra Elisar spoke of the journey ahead, of the early morning coach that would wind through Waterdeep's bustling streets, the tests that awaited at the academy gates, and the importance of first impressions among the city's magical elite. As the meal concluded, Magistra Elisir fixed Raiskin with an expectant gaze. "You may bring one question to me now, about the academy, your future studies, or what is expected of you. Choose carefully, for the answer may shape your first days." Raiskin met Magistra Elisir's gaze with all the courage he could summon. "What is the most important quality a student needs to succeed at Blackstaff Academy?" he asked, hoping the answer would calm the restless doubts in his mind. The Magistra considered for a moment, her fingers steepled before her. "Adaptability," she replied, her voice both gentle and unwavering. "You will encounter ideas, people, and magics far stranger than any you have known. The Academy rewards those who can learn from failure, alter their approach, and grow. Whether in spellcraft or in friendship, pride can be a stumbling block, but those who bend rather than break will thrive." She offered a rare, approving nod. "Of course, discipline and curiosity matter, but it is the ability to change, to see with new eyes, that marks the greatest mages and the truest friends. Remember, Blackstaff itself is a place of shifting halls and living shadows. Be willing to listen as much as you speak, and you will find your place." Raiskin felt his heart steady. He glanced at his parents, who smiled with quiet pride, and then at his packed trunk. The day stretched before him, uncertain but bright with promise. Soon the journey would begin. With breakfast finished and Magistra Elisir's words echoing in his mind, Raiskin excused himself to gather his trunk and cloak. The halls felt smaller, the morning light sharper, as he moved with new purpose. His parents followed him to the entryway, their faces a mix of pride and wistfulness. Lord Durandar embraced him, firm, brief, but heartfelt, while Lady Durandar smoothed his hair, her eyes a little too bright. Magistra Elisir waited by the open door, her blue robes catching the light. Outside, a black lacquered coach emblazoned with the Academy's sigil awaited, its driver standing at attention. Servants loaded Raiskin's trunk into the carriage as he took a last look back at the manor that had been his world. "Remember," his father murmured, "you carry our name, but your path is your own. Make it worthy Raiskin." His mother pressed the family locket into his palm. "For luck and for love." Raiskin climbed into the coach beside Magistra Elisir, heart pounding with excitement and fear. The door shut, muffling the sounds of farewell, and the coach lurched into motion. Waterdeep's streets unfurled before him, bustling with promise and peril, as the journey to Blackstaff Academy, and to a new life, began. Raiskin settled into the velvet seat, the quiet creak of the coach and the rhythmic clatter of hooves a steady backdrop to his thoughts. He gazed out the window as the familiar spires and awnings of Waterdeep gave way to the bustling markets and winding alleys of the city's heart. Yet in his mind's eye, he saw only the looming towers of Blackstaff Academy, imagined its enchanted halls and strange, shifting corridors. He wondered what his first classmates would be like. Would they see him as just another privileged noble, or would they recognize the hunger for magic he carried within? He pictured the professors stern, mysterious, perhaps even a little dangerous, each with secrets to teach or traps to set. The memory of Magistra Elisar's advice, adaptability, echoed inside him, mingling with his father's warning about pride and rivalry. The city's noise faded behind the insulated walls, and Raiskin drifted into a quiet anticipation. He touched the silver locket at his throat, feeling the warmth of home, and let the silence stretch. It was a rare, bracing feeling to be so close to the unknown, and yet so sure he belonged to it. The coach turned onto a broad avenue flanked by ancient statues and high iron gates. Ahead, the towers of Blackstaff Academy rose against the sky, their stones glimmering faintly with wards and runes. Raiskin's heart leaped in his chest. The journey was nearly over, and his true adventure was about to begin. Raiskin closed his eyes, feeling the gentle sway of the carriage as it rolled to a stop in front of the Academy's imposing gates. He drew in a deep breath, letting the cool air fill his lungs and steady his racing heart. The memory of his parents' parting words echoed in his mind, mingling with Magister Elisar's advice. For a moment he was not a noble's son, nor a newly admitted mage, just a boy on the threshold of something vast and unknown. The coach door opened with a soft creak, and Magistra Elisar offered her hand. "Welcome to Blackstaff Academy, Raiskin," she said, her voice unexpectedly warm. Beyond her, ancient statues flanked the gates, their eyes set with chips of moonstone, and beyond them, the towers of the Academy shimmered with enchantment. As Raiskin stepped down from the carriage, he saw other students arriving, some in fine carriages, others on foot or astride magical steeds. All bore the same looking, hope tinged with apprehension, wonder edged with fear. The Academy's gates loomed above, promising challenge and transformation. Magistra Elisar gestured toward the main entrance, where a line of new students was already forming. "Your new life begins here. Will you walk forward with confidence, or let the shadows of doubt slow your steps? The choice, as always, is yours." Raiskin straightened his shoulders and strode toward the line of new students, determination burning in his chest. He offered a polite nod to a nervous-looking girl clutching a battered satchel, and a quiet smile to a tall boy whose robes bore a stitched family crest. The line moved slowly, winding past the stone guardians and through the wrought iron gates, their runes pulsing faintly with magic as each student entered. Inside the gates, the world seemed to change. The Academy's courtyards stretched wide, filled with clusters of students, some already deep in conversation, others wide-eyed with awe. Teachers in elaborate robes floated just above the grass, their voices weaving subtle enchantments through the air. The buildings themselves seemed alive, their windows shifting and banners fluttering in a wind only they could feel. A robed attendant approached, bearing a roll of parchment and a silver quill. "Name, please?" he asked, his tone brisk yet not unkind. Raiskin gave his name, and the attendant checked his list, then gestured toward a set of marble steps leading into the main hall. "Welcome, Master Durander. Your orientation begins inside." As Raiskin stepped forward, he caught the eye of the tall boy from earlier, who gave him a quick, encouraging grin. The academy doors loomed ahead, promising both challenge and wonder. The first steps of his new life awaited within. Raiskin lingered at the edge of the marble steps, letting the sights and sounds of the academy courtyard wash over him. Laughter sparkled in the air as a trio of students conjured harmless will-o'-wisps to chase one another, their spells swirling with harmless blue flames. Nearby, an instructor demonstrated a minor illusion, changing the color of a hedge from emerald to gold with a flick of her wand. The air itself felt charged, as if possibility and wonder were as thick as the spring sunlight on his face. To his left, a small group of older students hovered just above the grass on floating discs, their laughter carrying hints of both camaraderie and rivalry. Raiskin watched as a stone gargoyle blinked, then yawned, stretching its wings before settling back into stillness. Every detail, from the banners that fluttered in non-existent wind to the soft, tinkling sounds from enchanted fountains, reminded him that he had truly stepped into a world shaped by magic. He caught his reflection in the polished surface of a silver statue, a boy on the cusp of something extraordinary, his cloak just slightly too large, his expression a blend of awe and resolve. The moment felt important, a memory he would keep for years, the last breath before the plunge. Gathering himself, Raiskin turned toward the main hall, heart swelling with anticipation. Yet as he moved, he noticed the tall boy with the family crest waiting at the top of the steps, clearly lingering for him, and the nervous girl with the battered satchel glancing his way as if hoping for a friendly word. Raiskin approached the nervous girl, offering a gentle smile. She clutched her satchel tightly, knuckles white, eyes fixed on the magical displays, but not truly seeing them. "It's all a bit overwhelming, isn't it?" he said softly, careful not to startle her. She blinked and nodded, managing a small, grateful smile in return. "Hey, I'm Raiskin," he continued, extending a hand. "First day jitters are supposed to mean you care, or so I've been told." This earned a quiet laugh, and she relaxed her grip on the satchel. "I'm Miranol," she replied, her voice just above a whisper. "I've never left Am before. Everything here is, well, magical." They watched together as a senior student sent a flock of miniature glowing birds soaring into the air, trailing ribbons of light. To be a stranger, I'm nervous too," Raiskin admitted, "but I think that's what makes it exciting. Maybe we can help each other through it." Miranol nodded, her eyes brighter now. "I'd like that." As the bell tolled from the main hall, summoning the new students to orientation, Raiskin felt a sense of relief, and perhaps the beginnings of a true friendship. As the bell's echo faded, Raiskin and Morano fell into step together, joining the stream of new students heading toward the main hall. He glanced over, voice gentle but curious. "What sort of magic excites you most, Morano? Is there something you hope to learn here above all else?" Miranel's eyes brightened, the tension in her shoulders easing with every stride. "I love stories of illusionists, mages who can change how the world looks or feels. My grandmother told me tales of a bard who made whole villages believe in summer during the darkest winter. I want to learn to bring joy or comfort with just a wave of my hand." She hesitated, then added, "But I'm terrible at anything with fire. My last cantrip set a teapot boiling over for hours." Raiskin grinned, feeling a kinship in her uncertainty and ambition. "Illusion sounds wonderful. I've always been drawn to the theory behind spellwork, the logic, the patterns, but I suppose we'll both have a lot to discover." They reached the great oak doors of the hall, where the tall boy with the family crest was waiting, holding the door for a cluster of students. He caught Raiskin's eye and nodded in greeting. The buzz of anticipation swelled as students filtered into the shadowed, vaulted space within. The first real lessons of Blackstaff Academy about to begin. Raiskin slipped quietly past the rows of benches in the grand orientation hall, choosing a seat near the front where he could see the raised dais and the carved lectern at its center. Be a stranger, glass windows cast motes of colored light across the room, illuminating banners embroidered with arcane symbols and the proud crest of Blackstaff Academy. Around him, students murmured in hushed tones, the air thick with nervous excitement and hope. As the last arrivals found their places, a hush fell over the hall. A tall, silver-haired mage in midnight blue robes, his presence commanding, his staff inlaid with runes, strode to the front. Raiskin recognized him from illustrations Archmage Roundel, the current Blackstaff and head of the academy. Randall's gaze swept the crowd, and when he spoke, his voice was both gentle and unmistakably powerful. "Welcome, students, to Blackstaff Academy. Here, you will learn not only spells and secrets, but the very shape of your own souls. Magic, like ambition, must be tempered by wisdom and humility. You are the future of Waterdeep, and the future of the Weave itself." Raiskin straightened in his seat, heart racing. Here, at last, was the beginning he'd dreamed of, and the first true test of who he would become. Raiskin leaned forward, absorbing every word as Archmage Randall continued. The Blackstaff spoke of the legacy of the Academy, of the lives shaped and changed within its walls, and of the responsibility that came with power. "You will find friends and rivals, triumphs and failures," he intoned. "You will be tested by your teachers, your peers, and most of all, by yourselves." He paused, letting his gaze linger on the faces in the front rows. "We do not expect perfection. We expect courage. We expect you to question, to learn, to rise after every fall. Magic is not the absence of fear, but the will to act in spite of it. Welcome, students. The Academy is now your home." A wave of applause swept the hall, and Raiskin felt a shiver of excitement and trepidation. The great doors swung open once more, and instructors, some stern, some smiling, began to call out names, grouping students for their first lessons and tours. Raiskin glanced at the sea of unfamiliar faces, the possibilities of his future stretching out before him. One instructor, a thin man with spectacles and a robe stitched with constellations, called Raiskin Durandar. The first step toward his magical education and the unknown had finally arrived. Raiskin rose from his seat with confidence, making his way toward the instructor in the constellation-stitched robe. The man's eyes crinkled in a brief, approving smile as Raiskin offered a courteous bow. "Welcome, Master Durandar. I am Professor Nevrin. You'll find that a ready mind and steady heart will serve you well here." Professor Nevrin gestured for him to join a small cluster of new students, among them Miranil, who gave Raiskin a relieved grin, and the tall boy, who nodded in quiet camaraderie. "You three will be grouped for your first lesson and tour," Nevrin explained. "The Academy's halls can be both wondrous and bewildering, so stay close and trust one another." As they assembled, the professor led them from the orientation hall into a corridor shimmering with softly glowing runes. The air was rich with the scent of parchment and magic. "Today you'll receive your room assignments, meet your mentors, and, if you're lucky, get your hands on your first spell components. But first, a word of warning, not everything at Blackstaff is what it seems. Remain curious, but be wary." Raiskin felt a thrill of anticipation. Surrounded by new friends and standing at the threshold of true magical discovery, he took his first steps into the deeper mysteries of Blackstaff Academy.